Hello gamers and welcome in on how to flick with Oni, or a flicking tutorial with Oni. I'm going to do my best to try to keep it short, but I did want to introduce myself. If those did not know who I am, my name is Odin. I'm a P100 Oni, and I primarily play Oni, and I'm sitting in around the top 10 for Oni downs with around 25,000 Blood Fury downs with Oni. I stream a lot over on Twitch, so if you enjoy watching that kind of content live, feel free to check it out. There'll be a link in the description below. And honestly, that's pretty much about it. I play a lot of Oni, and I feel like I have a good understanding on how to play Oni at the higher levels. And I did want to get some things out of the way before I do start this tutorial. You don't really need to have any sort of crazy high DPI. It is going to help obviously having a higher DPI, but it's not quote unquote required to have a higher DPI. Yeah, again, it's just going to help a lot if you have a higher DPI. Anything higher is just going to be able to help you flick with a little bit more ease. Obviously, it's going to take more time to learn as well. You don't need any sort of DPI switch. Personally, I frown upon this, and I wouldn't recommend any Oni learning with a DPI switch. And if you don't know what a DPI switch is, essentially whenever you pop your power with Oni, you can just change your DPI to a higher DPI compared to having your DPI stay at a constant throughout the game. I feel you will have to learn a lot more with Oni, and learning one DPI can be tricky already, so I personally wouldn't recommend it. And then lastly, you will need some mouse space regardless if you're playing on 10 million DPI or the lowest DPI possible. I still find myself needing a lot of mouse space, and even like hitting the side of my keyboard a lot with flicking with Oni. Even with my 3200 DPI, I still find myself needing a lot of mouse space. If you do want to know what settings that I play with, I play on 3200 DPI, like I said, and I keep everything in-game default. So a killer DPI, all this stuff is default, so I don't change anything in-game. So I'm just on 3200 DPI entirely. This guy's gonna focus primarily on how to flick rather than when is best to flick. I'll be working on that video right after this one, or more so an overall Oni guide. So if you want to see stuff like that or just enjoy my content, please subscribe if you're not already and share it with your friends. I want to become more active on YouTube, and this will help me a lot. With this all being said, let's get started. So personally, what I'd recommend with learning how to flick is I would go into a custom game. So it doesn't really matter about perks or even like add-ons or anything. Personally, I like using speed. If you're not comfortable with Oni, you don't have to use speed. I can make multiple clips without using speed. You know what? Even in this tutorial, I won't use speed. So I would use blood orbs, and I would use duration just so you can have your power longer. Maps don't really matter. You can just add some bots. So you can invite some bots, get them all in here. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna go to Cold Tower. How about that? We'll go to Cold Tower. So it doesn't really matter which map. I'm personally gonna go to Cold Tower. Perks don't really matter either. You can run whatever perks you want to normally run. But yeah, you can just start that. Okay, let's do it on a 4-lane. So essentially all you got to do for the flick, Oni, here, actually let me start with this. So essentially starting out, Oni can normally only go 90 degrees left to right, so 90 degrees left or 90 degrees right, like that. But the thing with the flick is if you just look up before doing that, so you look up and go right like that, as you can see, I was able to do more than just a 90. So look up and like that. Upon looking back at the footage, I did realize that I was looking kind of like straight up in the air for the flick, which you still have to do, like look straight up for it, but it's more of that J motion, which I'll be talking about in this video. But I did want to point out that it's more of like an arc motion. So instead of looking just straight up and then flicking left or right, you kind of just want to like make like an upwards J, like an upwards like arc motion. So it's all in one motion instead of just like look up then flick. It's all done in one motion. I did just want to say that. So if you are doing the flick and you are like looking straight up and then trying to flick left or right, it might not work for you. But if you do it all in one motion and include like looking up and flicking left to right, it should work for you. I just wanted to throw it in there. Look up, hold mouse 1, flick left. That looked a little weird because it was a little too much. But you see, it's more than a 90, right? That's pretty much the gist of it. Let me go grab my power back again.
Oh boy, jeez.
At TNLs and like stuff like this, it forces you to actually flick around it properly. So you have to do this, look up. And that's how you do like a proper 180. You're able to practice on these really well. TNLs is just like this, 4 lanes are just like this. And if you can get this down, this is pretty much like the basic mechanic, but you can do it from this side. You can do it from the other side. You gotta be careful not to bonk. That'll happen a lot, just bonking on that. But again, the core movement is just look up and then flick left or right. You look up, right? So you move your mouse up and then Once you're like at like the highest point or whatever, then you hold mouse 1, and while you're holding mouse 1, then you flick either left or you flick either right. So it's gonna actually kind of look like you go up, right? You're gonna go straight up, and you're either gonna go left this way, or you're gonna go right, and it's gonna kind of be like a J in either direction. So you're either gonna flick to the left, and it's gonna be a J this way, or you're gonna flick to the right, it's gonna be a J this way. So once you reach the top, you hold M1 and then you flick.
I decided to slow this down, or slow this part down, just so you can really see what the flick looks like, and pay attention to my hand the entire time during the flick. As you can see, it doesn't move as much because I'm on a higher DPI. However, you can still see the full motion of me flicking upwards and flicking left and right all in that one motion. I hope this helps at least like visually show you how the flicks should look, at least how I'm doing the flicks. And yeah, I hope this helps.